And go. Looks like the broadcast was deleted. Oh no.
We're live.
We're live.
Yay!
My dog, Mike Schumann, he's a little excited. He seems to start our show off every time. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Fantastic. Good. Happy Saturday.
We have a rave response from my dog Rio in the right-hand corner, letting us know, like, woo woo, fur babies are representing.
Yes.
How is everyone doing this morning?
Great.
Great.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to close up our month of Black History to really celebrate some of the incredible leaders and inspirations that have kind of given us momentum to be here now. And I get really excited about any opportunity I have to talk to other women because as a woman, I know what it takes to be one. And I am so celebratory when I see other women in our world just rising and shining and becoming. And I'm so grateful to share this space with you this morning because I really have a good feeling that each of you are going to be able to give us an awesome perception check. And what I mean by that is sometimes, you know, my perception is only seeing out of these lenses, right? The lenses that I walked in life with, and I might need to clean them off at times, but nonetheless, they're what I get to see from what is going on inside of me. And if I only look out at the world from my lenses, I could very well miss a lot of things. And sometimes my interpretation of what I'm seeing could be a little skewed if my feelings are hurt or my stuff comes up. And so I love perception checking with other, for me personally, strong, powerful, intelligent women because they are my standard, right? They're standards that I like to rise into and be a part of. And so if I'm off a little bit and I check in with my girl powers, I know that they can help me see a perception that I might not, and that will help me grow. And so I'm really excited to close this month up with a perception check from all of these powerful beauties that are looking out at me and looking out at you because they all come from different spaces of life and they all have a different story to share and a different perception and a lens for us all to see from. So without further ado, I would love to introduce you to these beautiful lenses and allow them to share with you what they see and how they feel being a woman today and the things that have inspired them and molded them and cultivated their wealth, their richness that's in their heart and what they see their beauty from. So I'm going to go ahead and pass our center off to Daranisha. Go ahead, take it away, sweetheart. Tell us you and share with us some of your lenses.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Daranisha Williams. So I am a mom, and also I am originally from Mississippi, born and raised, but now I live in California. A little bit about my family background is that so my grandmother's mother is half Native American, and my grandfather's mother is half white. And so it's so funny because I don't look like a lot of my family members. And I'm like, because I look like all of our generations all together. So what I do within my job is I am a school psychologist, and you don't see many of us, many of Black school psychologists. And that is one reason why I decided to go into the field because representation matters. And I decided to be that small percentage of representation for everyone can see a school psychologist can be of any skin tone. So that's just a little bit about me.
Fantastic. And what is the one single person of our Black history, just one, just pick one, and we'll talk about many, that really reminds you of all of those things that you are projecting through your lens? Who or what energy, was it a movement? Was it a person that really sort of kind of gave you an awareness and, creates a little momentum in your day?
So one person that gave me a huge awareness for Black history was, well, it was an actual case, the case of Trayvon Martin. And that happened when I was in college. It gave me a huge awakening to see that the world was not as fair as I thought it was. And it made me more aware to push and to actually be more involved within creating those spaces for Black people. And me being 29 years old right now, I was a psychologist at 25, which is a lot. Not a lot of people can say they were a psychologist at 25. So I just push the boundaries, and I show people that you could be young, you can be Black, and you can be whatever you want to be, no matter what skin tone you are. And I just want to inspire all to be that way.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, let's see. Let's go over to your right, Storm. Go ahead
Hi.
and share with us a little bit about your beauty and what your lenses see.
Okay. I'm Storm. I am a wife. I am a mother of 3 boys. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Let's see. I'm 30. I don't know if I already said that. I'm an introvert, so this is gonna be interesting. But yeah, my dad is Black, my mom is white. I grew up in Iowa. I've lived in many places, but I'm currently in Iowa again for a little bit. Yeah, I to answer the, what kind of pushed me and such, I feel like, you learn just a little bit of Black history in school, and I think it really kind of captured me. And so I'd go to my school library and I'd find more books, or I'd, try to do my own research. And I always remember thinking in school, like, oh, what Rosa Parks did, or the Freedom Riders, or like connecting through a secret radio station, just different things,
Yes.
like would I get involved, I guess, because there's so many people that were involved, and then there's other people that wouldn't, or wouldn't let their kids join in or whatever, out of fear or whatever. And it's so easy, since we're in the future, to be like, oh yeah, I'd be there, I'd be being hit with hoses, I'd be going to jail with Martin Luther King Jr. and stuff. It's so easy to say that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I feel like as a child, I always ask myself, like, would I do that? And I'm always like, yeah, I do it. And so I feel like in our modern day, like, we see things going on and more people are becoming aware. It's like I kind of feel convicted, like I can't necessarily stand back and say nothing, because as a child, I always said, if I was there, I would have done something, So that's me.
Yeah, and you brought up some really powerful movements, and I think that this year we've seen a lot of reenactment of that energy, and it's powerful to understand that with great awareness, our generations are almost like putting up a barrier so that we don't repeat time, and that we can use what we've learned from those spaces to become more and better and more because of. And I'm so proud of men and women like us that are making choices to keep our conversations going and to keep that love flowing, and to not allow that impact to revisit us anytime in our future. And that feels good. It feels good knowing that we are taking great strides to continue the work that's been laid in from those great people of our time, like Rosa Parks and Martha. I mean, I just kind of feel like it's our responsibility to keep those things in play, right? All those efforts would be for nothing otherwise. So yeah, and I definitely would have been right there with you. I would have been in all of it. All right, Jade, how about you? Good morning, sweetie.
Good morning. So my name is Jade, and I'm actually Storm's sister. And I grew up in Iowa. I was raised in Iowa, and I currently live in Colorado. I am a graphic designer in the cannabis industry. And actually, it's really interesting because you don't see many women or Black people that work in this industry. And
Wow.
so sometimes it can be a little different if I'm very aware of my surroundings. But growing up, I'd say a huge thing that led me where I am now is that I grew up in Iowa. I grew up in Burlington, Iowa. And it's actually, I grew up in West Burlington, Iowa. And back then it makes a difference. You know, the railroad tracks is what splits that. And West
Oh.
Burlington was predominantly white. And it was only like 3,000 people. So a very, just a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Conservative, a lot of conservative people. You don't see a whole lot of diversity with race or sexuality or just different cultures. You just don't see that. There's a lot of the same type of people. And so for me, that was really difficult because I was different in a lot of ways. But it never felt like home to me. And so when I turned 18, I mean, since I've been 18, I've moved 23 times. And I just have always been looking for home. And it was just very important to me. And just because of how I grew up, it was very important to me. So that's how I landed here.
Fantastic. And are you a mom? Are you married? What's your dynamic? What's your
So
dynamic today?
I am a single mom. My daughter is 11, and her dad's not in her life in any way. And sorry, what was the other question?
What is your dynamic today? You would answer them both by saying that you're a single mom and your child is 11. So you're good.
Yes.
Yeah. That was exactly it. And where are you living now?
So I currently live in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
And also to answer the question of just kind of who or what inspired me to
Yeah.
just kind of where I am today. Honestly, so I learned about the differences between the Black and white races, like in our country, the issues that we have. I learned about that mostly in school, when we would learn about history. And it would always start like I like really my very first memory of learning about the war between the races was we got a brief, quick rundown on, you know, how the slaves were brought over here and how they were mistreated. And it was a quick run through. And so in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so I'm finally starting to understand why I'm being treated the way I am. So, okay, now I'm starting to get it. Now the pieces are starting to come together. And we had to, I swear, we watched this movie like 6 times in school, and it was La Amistad. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it.
What is it called?
La Amistad.
La Amistad.
Yes. And
Would you recommend people to watch it?
I would recommend it.
How do you spell that? L-A?
LA space, and it's AMISTAD. La Amistad. It's the name of the ship that had brought that the Spanish had used to bring Black slaves over and to sell them and do all of these different things. But it runs through like what it was like. It's a fairly long movie, like maybe 2.5 hours, but it runs through how women were raped on the ship and how they were all chained together and they threw them overboard because they weren't making their weight expectations. And then how they eventually got to America and they were trying to fight for their rights, but they couldn't speak the language. Nobody was advocating for them, and just all of these different things. So that was my first like real glimpse to actually like physically see like
how
kind
old
of
were
what
you when
happened.
you were seeing that?
You know, I probably am not super accurate about this, but I want to say like 3rd grade, 4th grade.
Wow. So as this little girl, you're seeing that. What on earth?
Well, and for me, inside my little mind, it was really hard because we're watching it in a class setting and all the lights are off, you know, we're watching this movie and I'm just fighting to hold back the tears because it's just like, it's all unveiling to me. I'm seeing everything for the first time. I'm recognizing and understanding why there's an issue with me in this city, in this school, with these people. And a lot of them are just looking at me. They're like looking at me as I'm watching this movie, I guess, seeing what my reaction would be, which made it so much more uncomfortable. Just talking about Black history in school in general was very uncomfortable because I got to share it with only white students.
Well, and oh gosh, what a great point is that. But if your skin is light, so just like your sister, you both have very light skin. And so, it's not recognizable that you would be a Black woman, and that in itself, what did that feel like? You know, um, today we say, let's see color, but in your case, for both of you, as women, your color was something that was felt, it sounds like, in your heart from your roots versus something that was just seen. So how does that feel? How does someone, for lack of better words, that is white, right? Like my skin is olive or whatever you want to call me. How does someone understand that? Because I feel you right now. Does that make sense?
Well, yes. Well, first of all, because we are lighter, we definitely have been able to, I don't want to say able to pass off, but a lot of people assume that, like with Storm, a lot of people assume she was Hispanic. And for
Yeah,
me, it was
see
more
that.
like Pacific Islander or
Oh
something like
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
But a lot of people would, I mean, so many times I've been asked, what are you? What are you? And it just,
Right.
it's so frustrating because the way it's being put makes me
Like
feel,
the question that's being asked.
yeah, it
Okay.
automatically puts me on the outside by you asking
So
me, what am I?
so teach us in this moment. What is the what is the best way to ask that question that that would allow you to feel upheld and respected? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the best way to communicate in that space?
Honestly, in my opinion, it's just coming right out and saying what you're actually saying. What ethnicity are you? What nationality are you? Just complete the sentence and don't just skimp and say, what are you? That's it. I'm sure it doesn't come off offensive to the people asking, but when you get
Hmm.
asked that hundreds of times in your
Yeah,
lifetime, it's so
yeah,
old.
yeah. And I think one of the most interesting interesting things is how, like for instance, someone that would be Pacific Islander or Latina, right? We don't ask the same question in the same way, right? It's you feel the difference. I mean, and what is that? Because our skin color is all different colors, no
Yes.
matter what. Like it's just a strange, to me, it's always been, why do we just refer to it as black and white? Because not all of our skin is just black and white. Some of it is olive color, some of it is brown, some of it is fair skin, some of it is pink, some of it, we all have, like, where did that ever come from? Does anyone know that?
I don't know that, but I do think that people just try to generalize. And I found that something that was really difficult was I was never white enough for white people and I was never black enough for black people. And they made sure I knew that.
Ooh, what
And
does
up
that
until
mean?
now, up until being adult, people like black people just call me white. And it's just like it's hard to get it from both sides.
Yeah.
I just feel like I've never truly been able to, I've been accepted by people, but as far as like calling a race my own, I do not have that.
Mm.
Mm.
And I don't have that sense of community. And actually, I was talking to Storm about this, and even something as simple as walking into the grocery store or to a family reunion or somewhere where you would see people that look like you have that sense of security in a way. You see other people that are like you, but I don't ever see that. I have always lived, for the most part, in a predominantly either white or black area. And I always stick out in some form or fashion. I don't get to see people that look like me too much.
And how are you with that today? What does that feel like today? As far as, are you like, what does the conversation sound like as a mom to your daughter about this?
When me and my daughter talk about this, we identify, well, I'd say I identify now as just being mixed. I don't claim black or white as my own anymore. I used to say I'm black. But then when I saw the response from the black community that I was around saying, no, you're not, my dad always used to say,
Wow.
if you even had a drop of black in you, you were black. And I believed that with everything I
Mhm.
had. And then when I
Hmm.
finally started having black friends or introducing myself into the black community, I guess you could say, that was not the response. And
Mm.
even today is not the response.
Wow.
And that's really hard. So I identify as being mixed, and My daughter would say probably Black. She would most likely say that.
Okay.
Can I chime in for a little bit?
Of course.
I
Come on in.
love I love this conversation because even though both of my parents are Black, and I still get the question, "What are you?" all the time, and I'm like, I always tell people, "Well, I just identify as Black." Um, but I do understand where you're coming from, Jade, because I've heard that before. When a person is of mixed race, I have heard, "Well, they're not just Black." I'm like, okay, but they're still Black. I consider, just like your dad, if anyone has an ounce of Blackness in them, I'm like, oh, we're Black, we're sisters. What's up? But but I see where you're coming from because I've heard those comments before. And I think a lot of the comments are ignorant, but I also know that representation matters. And it does matter if you see someone that is mixed race, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
notice. I
matters.
notice when I see them.
Like it matters. Just like to me, it matters to me if I see someone that's Black. It does,
Yeah.
it matters.
Right. So here's my question though. What is the difference between, so I'm mixed. I'm a
Mhm.
mix of like 7 or 8 different races, between being Italian and Greek and Egyptian and Turkish and Serbian, right? Russian. I'm a mix of all that. So what is the difference between that? And why is being a mix between Black and white a different prevalence or understanding than being a mix of a bunch of different races what's the difference?
Well, the
I think
controversy
because
is Black and white. I mean, just with
yeah.
what's going on in our country.
But why is that? Why do we think as women, right? As moms and as women, I mean, we're
Mhm.
now, not only are we looking out of the lenses of our own, but as
Yes.
moms, we kind of get an opportunity to look out the lenses of our children and of the world, right? Why do we think that we focus as people on just that? Because would we not agree at this point, there's a lot of mixtures,
Oh,
right?
yes.
There's a lot of beautiful mixtures that to me, I think there's more mixtures of many races than there are of just
Mhm.
that anymore,
Oh, just Black and white. I
right?
agree with you. I think there was such a focus on it at first because of discrimination, because of certain people could pass as being white and not be
Yeah.
as discriminated as. I mean, there is such thing as colorism as well, in all communities. I shall say,
Wow.
not even just in the Black
Yeah.
community.
But we got to talk
Um,
about that. Yeah.
and I mean, I understand colorism. A lot of
Yeah.
people that are my skin tone would say, well, I'm not discriminated. I'm discriminated the same way as a darker Black skinned woman would be discriminated in the
Tell us
South.
all what colorism means.
So basically, colorism is, I can give you a good example. If I apply for a job and another Black woman apply for a job and she is darker than I am, right? We both, let's just say she had higher credentials than me and she did a great job, but they hire me instead. And
What?
that's because they probably feel more comfortable with me because I have lighter skin. Um, and that happens a lot. It happens a lot within the Black community. A lot of my friends that are that have darker skin, I do see more people gravitate towards me because I am of lighter skin. And of course, I'm pretty short too, so I'm not intimidating. I don't think I'm intimidating at all. But it's all about what people feel comfortable with. And I've noticed that. I know that the darker your skin is, the more you're intimidating. I mean, and that has to do with police brutality. That has to do with so many different problems within America. And I have not experienced some of the racism that my friends have experienced that have darker skin. Um,
It's
and
almost like the darker you are, the more savage you are. Like that's
yes,
like the hidden
yes,
thought behind
yes,
it.
yes, I agree with you. That's the hidden thought. Like the more dangerous you are, right? The more likely you'll have a weapon and so I've seen this. And of course a lot of it hasn't happened to me. Racism that has happened to me has been minor. But I've seen major issues. And so that has to do with colorism. And colorism can even happen within your own community. It can even happen within the Black community. So
Yeah. Yeah. That was a great share. I definitely learned a lot there. That was a great share. And I think that that is why it's so important that we're able to have these conversations as women, because we teach each other. We teach each other about what's going on in our own worlds so that when we come together, we know how to make a difference and how to create that impact. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. We have been welcomed by another beautiful soul, and I'd like to introduce her at this moment. But we also have another little one in the corner that we still need to introduce. So I'm going to
yes.
just transfer our attention over to Gia really quick. Gia, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
My name's Gia. I'm 15, and right now I'm focusing on a lot of music, and I'm in school right now. I'm a sophomore in high school. And I'm focusing a lot on like music, whether it comes from like singing and like making my own music or dancing. And someone in Black history that really like inspires me is Janet Collins, and she is one of like the few Black women to become prominent in the ballet industry. She was like held back and put as understudies a lot of the time because of like her race, and she really fought back and started her own ballet school, which is really cool to me. My dad is white and my stepmom's Black, and then I have a little sister and she's biracial, which teaches me a lot just because growing up and taking her places was always different because people would ask me like, oh, are you her sister? Or different because we don't like look the same. But I always thought that was really cool growing up.
Very good. Thank you so much. And our last friend that just joined us, step on forward, Miss. Shine bright. Share with us who you are.
Hi, I'm Aisha Manis. Based off what you're asking for, you kind of want to know. I kind of came in late. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Things
So
that
what we're
inspire me.
sharing, yeah, what we're sharing is just what it feels like to be a woman today, and how the people of our history, our Black history, have created momentum and action and inspiration and leadership for us, so that who we are today is using that work that they laid in, so that we can be who we are now, and how that has kind of affected you and what that means to be you and look through your lenses as a woman of time today.
Okay. Well, I mean, just in like, it kind of works out. I'm a history major, about to get my master's in history, and most of it's focused on women's
Awesome.
history. And so I
Yes.
guess someone I think is really important in history is Ida B. Wells. She was someone who was an activist and a journalist in the late 1800s, writing about the lynchings that were taking place across the United States and really breaking the door open to show you what was really happening in America. And she did something like, we always look at Rosa Parks, which in itself is an issue because we know Rosa Parks was not the first one to refuse to get off the bus. It was a darker, pregnant 14-year-old girl who didn't fit the standards that make people comfortable.
What?
Colorism right there. So we go with the nice,
I didn't know
sweet,
that. Tell me more.
light-skinned
Wow.
Rosa
And she was
Parks.
pregnant?
Yeah, she was pregnant, 15, and dark. So she didn't make
Okay,
people comfortable.
just
So we
pause
chose
for
the
1
sweet old
second.
light lady.
Just pause for 1 second. This is one of those moments. Like, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you were pregnant and you're sitting on a bus, probably after work, and someone was like, you need to move. Like, what would you do? Like, seriously.
Not
I
move.
mean, right? Who would
No.
move? Raise your hand if you would move. You would? Jade, you would move.
If I'm being honest, but I'd have to put myself in that place. I'm a dark young girl who's pregnant. I'm already probably looked down on, not just for my color, but also because I'm pregnant and unwedded and young. And I just got off work. My parents are not around me. I don't have anyone necessarily to support me. And a white person is telling me to move. Yes, I most likely would be moving.
You know what? When she puts it that way, like, right, I get it. Like, we probably, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, fine.
But
All
she
right,
didn't
fine.
move. That was the thing.
I
She
probably
didn't move
would have
because the
do that.
NAACP didn't take her case.
But I'm just saying, today if they did that, oh no, I'd be so
Yeah.
mad. Oh
But
my
yeah, that's kind
God,
of why I
that is
like.
great.
Yeah, that's why I like Ida B. Wells, because she was actually one of the first to do that. She was on a train. She had a first class ticket, and they said, "No, you got to go to the car with all the blacks." And she was like, "No." And then she bit them and gotten, jailed, but then won it in a court case and got
She
$500.
bit them.
She was
Bit them.
fighting, and she was an activist, and she wasn't light skinned. She was like, "I don't give a shit. I'm here."
Let's just take a minute and raise the roof. Yes.
That's awesome.
Put it
I'd
up.
be well.
Yes. Yes. And those are the women that did things. In my opinion, like we praise those women that had the bravery to be like no, and to, not that we, are promoting biting or fighting back in that way, but at the same time, girls got to do what a girl's got to do. I mean, seriously, that to hear that just makes my heart excited, because it's women like that have given women like us, paved the way. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but those are good shares.
Thank you. And I was listening to some of the stuff before I popped in. Like, I kind of understand. I'm sorry, I'm bad with the names here. Jade and Storm. I am biracial, but I'm incredibly white passing, and I know that. But I've had the advantage of having a very black name. So on paper, when I place that I am biracial, they just automatically assume I'm much darker, which sometimes have
Oh.
led to people wanting to talk to me to meet that quota, and then they realize, oh, she's white. We're not going to do that. I've run into those kind of issues all my life, and then I run into the issue of I'm definitely not black enough to claim to be black for some of my friends, because I don't experience the same things that they experience because I'm not dark at all.
Wow.
I mean, I can trace my family roots back to the plantations. I can do all that, but I'm white looking, and I've just kind of, and I kind of accepted it. And sometimes, I'm not black enough that I've been mistaken for Mexican. I've also been mistaken for Arab, because my name is also a very Arab name. And my brother's much, much darker than me, and he is very Arab Mexican looking. So like, we've just never, really had to deal with that part of it, even though it's definitely part of our history, our families, but
Mhm.
we pass. We're passing.
Mhm.
I basically based off on things when Thomas Jefferson had all of his slave children that he made with Sally Hemings. He created a law that if they were a certain percentage black, they could be freed and passing and be considered white. And that's about 1/8, which is what I am. So, Thomas Jefferson life, I'm passing. I'm white. I'm considered white enough. They kind of got rid of the 1 drop rule for a little before Reconstruction.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're a mom, correct?
Yes, I am a mom. I'm
Fantastic.
probably not
And
going to
what
have to deal with any of these issues with my daughter, because my daughter has special needs, and it's not really going to be a thing. So that's an advantage. I don't have to worry about race. She truly doesn't see anybody. So kind of works.
that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And on that note, I'm going to bring us back to Gia. Gia, at 15, what does being black or white mean to you? What does all that's going on in life today? How does race, diversity, how does color, how does Black Lives Matter, like all the things that we're kind of feeling the tension of this year, this current moment. I'm not trying to smize anything. I'm just trying to bring us into the now. What does that mean for you? How is that at 15, being a young woman in our world? What does that look like and feel like?
Well, for me personally, I think that like the whole like Black Lives Matter like movement was really important to open a lot of people's eyes, and like put like that like it did need to like it needed more publicity on it, I think. I think that everyone, like, not like all lives are the same, but I also do think that people need to be like shown more like, well, this person doesn't matter more because of their race, and this person doesn't have like if like I just think everyone needs to be treated equally, and everyone needs to be shown the same love or like the same just like same love or positivity or anything, like whether they're black or they're white or they're Asian or any kind of race. Like I don't think it should be divided in between color. I think it should be like, I don't think that should matter
Okay.
personally.
And do you, when you're, at your age at 15, do you have any, do you feel the pressure of division based on black or white at your age? Do you feel that tension or that pressure? Do you feel uncomfortable about people's differences? What does it feel like to be 15 today?
Like if anything, I'm worrying more about like definitely not race whatsoever. It's more like sexuality or like yeah, like that's like the more of like the divide. If anything, it's definitely not race whatsoever. Like no, but like everybody like my age, we're all happy. Like I have a lot of friends that are different races, and it does not matter to me whatsoever.
Okay,
With you, can I ask a follow-up question?
please go for it. If anyone has any questions for Gia, please. This is a great opportunity. And ladies, you might have a different way of saying things that might, develop this. So please, by all means.
You said you had friends of different races, and I was just wondering, do you and your friends of other races ever talk about, like you said, you don't really see any issues, but do you ever talk about your friends facing that?
Great question.
I personally, like, I feel like I live in a community where everyone's very positive. I'm from San Diego, and I'm from Encinitas, so more so everyone's very like loving and compassionate and have very like open mindsets and are very like no one's very like closed off, if that makes sense. Like we've all grown up like knowing that like everybody kind of like should have like the same mindset, and everyone should, as long as you're healthy and happy, that should be what you're focused on, and you shouldn't be focused on like, well, this person has a different race color, so I'm going to be rude to them and I'm going to treat them poorly because I'm a different color. More like, if that makes sense. And my friends haven't really like brought up like any issue to it, but when the Black Lives movement was happening, I know a lot of them we had like a beach paddle out movement, which was really awesome to watch.
Yeah, that is one thing I will concur. San Diego is a melting pot like nothing else, and it's one love here, man. It's really it's like I feel blessed that people are really good to each other here. I've been around to different places of our world where it's not like that. It's just not. I definitely know the difference, but San Diego definitely has a little love magic bubble here that makes my life pretty great. Meaning that we're not developing some of the tensions that I'm seeing happen around the world. So yeah. Does anyone else have any questions for Gia?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to. I worked with high schoolers, so I do understand where you're coming from when you say you guys don't see it, because this generation is totally different.
Yeah,
Um,
share with us about that, Dearnisha,
they
please.
are
That's a great
more.
perspective.
They're more supportive. They fight back. If they see something wrong in the schools, they say something. They don't care if it's the teacher. They don't care if they're going to the office. They're going to say something regardless. And that's what I love about this generation. We're building so many independent souls, and that's what I love. And I'm not going to say they don't see color, because they identify color, they acknowledge it, but they love each other. And I don't know if it's just a California thing as well, because I'm from Mississippi. And when I grew up, I knew the clear difference of Black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods, because where I lived in a whole nother town where I went to school, and we were the only Black people on the corner.
Mm.
And my
What was
entire
that like?
neighborhood, it was, no one came out the house. And it was a small neighborhood. No one came out the house. It was just, we knew what it was, basically. And growing up in that type of environment where Black and white people don't live in the same area, you kind of grow up knowing that, hey, we just don't live together. And so when we moved to that, we were that one Black family that moved into that area. It was, they did nothing. But later on, when they saw my little brother, when he got older, right? Because he was small when we moved there. He became older, and he has autism, by the way, high functioning autism. So he would walk the corner a lot, just walk around the neighborhood, walk the corner,
Mhm.
and someone filed a complaint against him because they said it was suspicious. So it's there. It is there. And we have been living there for years, by the way. My little brother, he was, I believe, 8 when we moved there, and
Mhm.
he's
Mhm.
20 something right now. But yeah, they filed a complaint against him, and the police actually came to the house, and my grandmother said, "You're not coming in, and he's not talking to you because he has autism, and you will not talk to him without me being present."
Right,
And
right.
she just stood her ground and said, "This is not
Yeah,
1985, so
right.
stay out there." Um, so I mean, it's different, very different. I mean, a lot of people are not as open anymore in Mississippi like they used to, because we are taking a stance
Yeah.
and we're not having it. But it's still there. But in California, I shall say, especially in San Diego, um, depending on the area you live in, it's shielded, right? A lot of my classmates out here, when I moved out here, I said, "Wow, it's different, right? It's different." And they didn't believe me when I said there were lynchings in Mississippi. They're like, "No, that doesn't happen." I'm like, "Where have you been in life, right?" They didn't believe me in 2014. A man was hung in Greenwood, Mississippi, at a all-white park.
What?
They didn't believe me. And so I had to pull up a news article and show them. And so that was in 2014. So it's
Wow.
still there, but it's not as open. And I just tell everyone that depending on where you live, it comes in different forms, but it's still there. But I understand Gia completely, because our kids here in California, they they move different. It's a different lifestyle, and depending from state to state, you have more. You can say more, and you're not going to be treated like you're what, an orange in a field full of apples.
Right, right.
So,
And that's a beautiful thing, you know. What, Storm, what is it? What do you see through your lenses as far as raising your three? Are they all boys or girls? What do you got?
They're all boys. My husband is white, and so my boys they're kind of a gradient. Like, they're all light skinned, of course, but I have a little bit darker, a little less, and then like a pretty white kid. Um, so I think I'm at the moment I live in Iowa. I just lived in Colorado. I'm about ready to move to Memphis, Tennessee, which is where my husband is from. And so I think it's kind of like what she was just saying, like it comes in different forms where you are. And like Memphis is there's a lot of Black people, there's a lot of white people. It's a very big kind of difference. There's also, I mean, race issues there, of course, um, but it is cool being there and being around more Black people and it being more diverse, because I was definitely not as diverse. Our town is a lot more diverse than it was when Jade and I were growing up. Like, still to this day, I'm 30 now, and if I see like a Black person walking down the street, I'm just like, like I just like look around like this. I mean, it's like whatever to everybody, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, because when I was growing up, I would never see that in West Burlington. Like Burlington was
Right.
a little more diverse, but it's all connected. There's not many people. So, but I feel like raising my boys, I will sit here and I will become like, I guess like mama bear mode if I ever think about like anybody looking at my child differently. They're all light skinned. I feel like they may not run into really any issues, which is fine. But and I don't want them to run into any issues, but I just feel like if they do, I'm just like, I feel like I'll just like want to like attack somebody, I guess. But I know that since I am light skinned, I will be able to kind of help them through stuff if they come to it, and I want them to be accepted in all circumstances. So I don't know. I feel like because of me being light skinned, I have been. It's similar to what Jade was saying. Like you're never white enough. You're never Black enough for like certain groups. You are always kind of like, I guess, the only one there that looks like you. But
You have to be
I
a
mean,
chameleon.
yeah, you're pretty much a chameleon. Like you're just kind of like, oh, now I'm over here. Oh, now I'm over here. And not that everybody treats you like junk or anything. Like that's, obviously not the case. But and then I also kind of look like Hispanic or Latina. So, and my first, like, Storm's my middle name. My first name is Mercedes. So that does not help my case for looking like Hispanic or anything. But my father just liked the car. And so I'm like, it has nothing to do with anything. It's a car, So I've had even Hispanics. Like I've had a lot of people that will come up to me and start speaking Spanish. I had a lady that was like, you look like my granddaughter's twin, and she was Mexican, and I just look different, I guess. But I know I'm just rambling, but like even earlier when we were talking about like people saying, well, what are you? I think it's also like the way that question is posed, because you have people who say like, oh, what are you? And you kind of feel like an alien, but then you have people that almost seem like enthralled, and they're like truly just like, you're gorgeous, what are you? And so I just like the way that you're saying it and what like your motive for saying it is like completely, and I feel like as a kid I was kind of like turn it into a game, like, well, what do you think I am? And it would just like you just get like all these different I had a car breakdown, and my tow truck driver came with a friend, and they're like, we took a bet, like when we pulled up, like, what are you? Because one guy was like half Mexican, half white, and the other guy was Black. And so he's like, the Black guy was like, I say you're mixed. And then the half Mexican guy was like, I say you're Mexican. And I was just like, nope, just mixed Black and white. But, and I do feel like back in the day, I would just say I'm mixed. And that just kind of meant Black and white. But today, like you were saying, like it doesn't necessarily mean that anymore, because there are so many mixtures. And I feel like that wasn't necessarily the case when I was younger. So now I feel like I specify like I'm mixed or I'm biracial, Black and white. But you didn't used to have to do that. Like you'd just be like, oh, you're mixed.
And
okay.
like do your kids, and that's really cool that we really recognize that, right? Because when we speak about, people of our history, they really knew the difference, right? So here we are as, women of today, and, sharing what that feels like. But then when you listen to someone younger like Gia, she's like, yeah, it's not really, right? So, so when your kids are even yet how old are your kids? Are they even younger than Gia?
Oh yeah, my oldest is 4. So
okay, so like, do your kids? So that to me, I really believe that generation from like 4 to like 12 of children are really showing us, Darrenisha, we were just talking about this, really showing us that not only has some of this been dissolved more and more and more, but by that generation, they're not even noticing what we're sensitive to, right? But yet the generations that came before us that did our work for us, they really knew it. And so I'm so excited to to see how that generation reveals the test of time, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, so tell us, do they know the difference? Speak to, like, do they ever ask you, like, why am I this color, or am I different from my friends? Do they have any understand? Darrenisha, you have a little one too. Does she have any awareness to those things?
I know my 4-year-old, he just knows he's brown. He's just, he'll call himself brown, or he'll call
And
himself
it's
tan,
yeah,
but, other than that, he doesn't really.
just fact of the matter, it doesn't come
Yeah.
with. Okay,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome, right? That's a
Yeah.
good thing. Yeah, that means we're doing our job. We're
Right.
doing our job in teaching people to love, and to love who you are without
Mhm.
attachment to other, the lineage of stuff. We don't
Mhm.
have to carry that on. We don't necessarily even need to fight for that anymore, because it is.
Right.
And that space of knowing is powerful, right? What do you think about that, Aisha? What do you think about any of that?
I mean, it's kind of hard from my perspective because I know my daughter is not going to be dealing with these issues because her awareness of others is not really there. Except it is. We have noticed that when she is around children, she's more interested in Black children. But I think that
Mm,
just has more to do with she's not used to seeing it. So it's just interesting to her. But like, she also just doesn't really notice people in general. She'll just walk right through you like you aren't even there. So she's
yeah.
pretty blind to all people, not just regardless of color of skin
And
or
that's a
anything,
beautiful
or
thing too.
religion,
Yeah.
ethnicity. She's just there chilling, living her best life.
Yeah.
So, and she's not going to be asking me any things like that. And I'm not, it's just a situation I'll never be in. But I mean, sometimes I put myself in that position because I host foreign exchange students, and I've have had students from around the world, and I had one from Nigeria, and there were certain things I had to explain to her about the US sometimes, like because it was like right after, it was actually right during the right before Black Lives Matter, like the whole thing this summer. I had her, and then things started happening, and I was like, yeah, you have to understand, here in this state of Georgia, sometimes it's not safe to walk down the street in certain towns, like it's,
That bugs me.
things are happening because they're Black, and there's brutality. And I was actually having to teach her about these things because we were kind of joking around about the fact that before coming to the US she'd never really seen a lot of white people before, and then coming into neighborhoods where there's very few Black people, she was surrounded. It was different for her, like it was a different experience. And so sometimes I have to deal with that, but
Especially
generally
because where
speaking,
she comes from, it's not.
yeah, where she came from in Nigeria, the white people were on TV.
Right.
That was it. They're,
Go figure.
or a missionary. You might see a missionary, but like she just was surrounded by Black people. So
And that is powerful to understand, because we are products of where we live. Our atmosphere and what's going on in our own personal ambiance is, what is that expression? You're the sum of the 5 things you're around the most, right, in your day. And so we don't realize that, when we come together as people, oftentimes the one thing that I'm really observing that is most forgotten is that we all come from different places, and they're not all the same atmospheres. And yet when we come together, sometimes we forget that and assume that everyone is from our atmosphere, vibrating the same way, hearing the same conversations in their kitchens, right? Think of the things that you heard in your kitchens growing up, and things that maybe you shouldn't have heard, the conversations that your parents were having when they were upset, or the conversations that the TVs were playing in the living room, the things that you got to hear growing up in your atmosphere. And those things really cultivate some of our current reactions within us. They fuel us. I mean, I know this year our media has played such a tool in fueling us with information. What was the most the biggest trigger for you this year, that we faced within our race? What, Jade, what do you feel about that? What was your biggest trigger? Like that one thing that you were like, ah, that moment, that trigger, what was it for you? I mean, I had many, but I mean, what was yours?
For me, it was George Floyd.
Oh,
I made myself watch the whole video, and it was
So-
like watching La Amistad all over again. And I was like, oh
Okay.
snap, I can't do, like it just like lit a fire in me.
So share with us what it felt like to experience that trigger for you through your lenses. Like, what did you see? What did you feel like? Tell me what that felt like. Just go through that story.
I've always been in a race war within myself.
What does that mean?
It means that I had a hard time identifying with anything specific growing up because it seemed like something was always working against me. Like growing up, I identified myself as Black because they treated me that way. But then when I went to the Black community and they said I wasn't, I no longer could like claim that as my own, I felt like. So I just was kind of like hanging out in no man's land by myself. And I had to figure out what that meant to just be me without having a community of people. It's not enough to just say like my mom loves me, my dad loves me. I know I have people in my life that love me, but I can't fully identify with you 100%. And that was what was hard. But seeing George Floyd, and I'm not really someone, or I wasn't at least, I wasn't someone who really watched the news or paid attention to things. I just kind of turned myself off from things like that. So forcing myself to watch George Floyd and what happened to him, it just like, because it's hard to explain because I understand the issues that happened between Black and white people in the very beginning. And because I am both, I feel like I've had to do this within myself.
Yeah.
Like I have
Oh
to
my
figure
God,
out,
I
like,
bet.
where am I in all of this? And like, where does my heart lie? Because I lie
Right.
with both of them and I see both issues and all of that. So I don't know, just that just kind of pushed me over the edge that we're in this day and age. It was 2020 and this is happening and it's being streamed on TV right now. What are you talking about? Like, this is not supposed to be happening. And it just like, my emotions just like couldn't be contained anymore.
And what were your emotions? What were you feeling?
Just so much rage and
Rage.
anger that was even happening. And kind of like what Gia was saying, what Gia said about the way she thinks the world should be is the way I think the world should be too. It just isn't right now. It is where she is because she's with her age group, but that's not what's really happening for everybody all across the country. And so it's just, I would love to get to that point, but because I don't know, seeing that happen, it just like, it was everything. I could feel my nerves were like moving through my body. I felt it so much. And
what emotion, what specifically, what moment, what made you angry?
Specifically when he said, I can't breathe the first time. And he was trying to tell him like, hey, you're hurting me. I'm like, you can see him dying. Like, it's just like, it's real. This is not something you're just seeing on TV for entertainment that someone put out. Like, this is really happening or happened, and the fact that, somebody could do that and there's video of it and not be like arrested on the spot. Like, because if it was vice versa, if this was a Black man doing this to a white man, 100% he would like get the electric chair immediately. Like that would have happened. And so like, it just like, it's like, is anybody seeing this? What are you talking about? Like, it's just, it was so maddening, like so much rage.
So what did you think about the sheer fact that people were videoing that?
I felt like it had to happen. It's kind of that thing where it's like, if I was there, I'd be like shoving people out of the way. But you got to understand that if you so much as come near those cops or really touch them, they're going to pull their weapons on you. So it's sort of,
feel the double standard.
Yeah, but I'm so glad that people were videoing it because obviously it needed to be seen. And I felt like that was a huge push towards, kind of like all of these issues being awakened again, like as a nation.
Yeah. Yeah. Who else would like to share on that one? I feel like you all have a little bit of something that we could all learn.
Ooh.
Go for it, Darnisha.
When I shed a couple of tears because it's just, I'm tired of seeing it. Yeah. I'm tired of the injustice, and I couldn't even watch the entire thing.
It's horrible.
Because he's screaming out that he needs help and attention and to stop hurting him. And you continuously do it and he dies. And to me, that shows what has been going on for years. And I feel like finally everyone opened their eyes and said, hey, Black people are not just talking out the side of their necks, right? Black people are not just complaining for no reason. This is really happening. And I understand if you don't live in certain neighborhoods, you don't see it happen, right? Because I am guilty
But
of
it's
that.
still happening. Yeah.
It's still happening. Like I've lived in neighborhoods where it has not happened at all. But my friends live in neighborhoods where the police will stop you just for walking home. So when you have that experience and you see that, it was just such an eye opener to America and everywhere across the world, because not just America was talking about it, not just America was marching about it. And a lot of people were saying, how is this different from any other march? But this is because everyone was woke and everyone saw it.
It like,
And
well, and yeah, and it reminds us that while a lot of work has been done and we are in a much better place than we ever have been, but there's still a lot more that can be done.
exactly.
We're not, 100%. And yeah, it definitely, you're right. It was an awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Go ahead.
think one of the more awakening parts for me was not all of these videos coming out, but it was the responses to all the videos. The fact that we were watching people die every single week, it felt like, from police brutality, and there were still people who were going, they should have complied. Oh, that doesn't happen. They were justifying all of these murders, consistently justifying these murders. And then when we watched a white child go and kill some people, they still could justify him killing people. Like, there are these people who just cannot accept what is happening. And then they were it's just, that's where it was really eye-opening, that even with all the evidence, like plain as day, real videos, watching people die, people could still justify it as happening. And it showed us that, we always talk about, the civil rights movements and stuff like that. It was like, no, people just stopped talking about their racism. They just hid it. That's all that happened. Racism is
You're
never
right.
gone.
They
It was
just
lying
wow.
dormant this whole time, and people were just hiding it. They wasn't as open as it is in some places in the South. It's just was hiding, because like
Some
I grew
people
up
don't know
actually
that
in
they've been
California.
conditioned to think that way.
Ooh, that's a
Say that
great
again?
awareness, Jade. That's a great awareness. Say that again.
I say that some people don't realize, like, all these people who are justifying, these white men or women, or these white kids that are doing something that is a crime, and being justified for it, or being let go, or whatever. The people who think that's okay don't realize that they've been conditioned to think that Black is wrong, and what we do,
Yeah.
or what especially darker Black people do, that they are savage, and that they will always be criminals, and they will always be rapists, and they will always be, the bottom of the barrel in the system that is bringing it down. And they have been conditioned to think this through movies, through the way they teach our history, through music, through like it doesn't even matter. Like, you don't even realize that. Do you even realize that when you go to the movies and you go to a predominantly Black movie, that it's usually a comic relief movie, that it's not usually a serious role playing, that, you know what I mean? Like, even just like, you don't even realize that the things that you're seeing or hearing are constantly conditioning you to believe a certain way.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I mean, let's just talk about this. And I'm talk about music.
Oh, music.
Because you know what, Jada, you have just opened up a whole new can of energy that I agree. I think that we as humans are very conditioned, and we're desensitized at some of the means that we're conditioned by. And you said it very well. Like, please go on. Talk about that. Expand on that. How movies and music go. Keep going with that.
Oh, there's so much to unpack.
Right?
Yeah. But I mean, this is really important. to start talking about, because, for the longest time, we've praised it for entertainment factor, just like this last year when we watched all of this. It almost became an addictive reality show to watch and to just continue to react off of, rather than realizing how it's influencing and conditioning our now and how that's going to affect our future. So I could not agree with you more, and keep going, girl. Keep going.
Well, honestly, there's a lot I didn't know and that I didn't recognize even before this last year. And my sister actually is the one who told me about the 13th Amendment documentary on Netflix. And watching it, it blew my mind. Like I had no idea, like, some of the bills that were passed once slavery was abolished that still kept Black people down, that still kept them in the prison systems, and that they were putting drugs in our neighborhoods to keep us down, and just things like that. Like there's just so much that I didn't know that it unpacks. Like there's a whole system happening here.
Well, and you know what I'm hearing. So one of, and not to like change gears, but to relate to something, because as we talk, I'm seeing such a correlation. So our current, we're dealing with a lot of human trafficking, massive issue. But just like what you're saying right now, they're putting drugs in our neighborhood, like these deposits that are happening from cycles of abuse that we're recognizing are still there. And, when you talk about slavery and all of the depletion in a culture, in a system, in an integration of empowerment for people over time, and how that race has been affected. Well, when you look at human trafficking today, I mean, that's still existing. It's still that level of abuse. It's almost like the slavery has impacted us in different ways over time. But how they keep, they meaning those that are continuing to feed that cycle of abuse, is just what you're saying. It is through that conditioned influence, making it hard to relentlessly overcome it and see through it, because it's saturated with that deplosion of drugs and controversy and fight, forcing people to continue to stay in that fight or flight state, to argue and to be distracted of what the truth is.
Yes. And I would say that unfortunately we just, not even to get into politics, but we just have a lot of people in power that still think that way. And they run their, the way bills are passed, or the way things are done in the system, have to do with, in a large part, the way they think, or the way their group of people thinks. And
Right.
I feel like that's a huge thing that continues to keep our country divided in this way.
What do you think about our new vice president?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I know.
Talk about people of influence.
Yes.
What is,
Yeah.
look at that energy that just changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very exciting to me.
So having a new energy come through in leadership today, what does that feel like for you ladies? How do you feel about that? What do you think of our new vice president? Would anyone like to
Yeah.
about that?
I just want to highlight that she went to a HBCU, a historical Black college. And
Ooh.
HBCUs are so important to our communities, because when we could not go to school, those are the colleges we went to. And for someone, I went to HBCU, Alcorn State University in Mississippi. I am so proud, by the way. I'm so proud, because this shows that a product of a HBCU, something that we started for ourselves, can
Yeah.
actually go off and be vice president. And
Ooh, that gave me the chills.
and
And that's
love
great.
it.
Yeah, yes.
I love it.
Wait, we need a moment.
Okay.
Come on, everybody. This is one of those moments. Like, seriously, we want to praise what we love. We want to, like, when
Yes.
something is powerful, we don't just want to ride by it, right? We want to praise that and just pray that we continue to ignite that energy. That's good
Yes.
stuff. Keep going.
Oh yeah, but I just felt so proud because when I look back on the history of just Black people, African Americans, I see so many people that struggle that made things their own, right? That started their own. And so to see those schools still going and to see that she went to a school such as that, Howard University, I was just so proud to even go to a school myself that was a HBCU. And the fact that she's a woman, not even just the fact that she's Black, but she's a woman, that should inspire every single woman that they can do it. Like one woman can, she did, but so many other women are going to take that place as well. And I'm just so excited. I'm so proud to even be in the space and see that and see and show my daughter, like, hey, this can happen to you. Like, you could be vice president too. So that's my feelings on that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you
it's
so
a
much.
double-edged
I
sword.
saw a couple other of you ladies. Go ahead, just start talking.
I think it's a double-edged sword with her
Can you-
because, she is the first, and therefore everything she does is going to be judged, and people are going to vote
Yes.
accordingly afterwards.
Mm,
I'm excited that she was, I mean, trust me, when Georgia turned blue and it was officially put, I think it was when Pennsylvania said that, that Biden had won the presidency. I literally was sitting somewhere with like my husband and I started crying because I was like, oh my God, this is truly happening. But then I'm like, oh my God, this is truly happening because there's going to be all that
Yeah.
pressure on her because, she doesn't just represent, Black women. She also
Yes.
represents Asian women. She
Mhm.
represents women. She just represents a lot of different little boxes we like to put people into. And if she does something wrong, she's going to screw it up for everyone else for a while people get their little, see, I was right this whole time. She blah, 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 blah. And I mean, she also doesn't have the best of histories when you think about the fact that she put a lot of Black people in jail in California during her time
Exactly.
there. So she's got a lot of history, and so it's a double-edged sword. Like, I'm excited, but oh God, this could be the only female vice president we get. And then it also makes me sad that you say to your daughter, oh, look, you could be vice president. You can't say, look, you could be president. Like it's kind of like
we want more.
Yeah,
I want
we want
more.
Yeah, we
more.
want more. Well,
Women
and
need to be in
raise
all
your
places
hand, like
this.
raise your
It's just-
hand if you feel the pressure just being who you are as a woman in your own race. Like it's a lot of pressure today to hold standard, right? And I think we're all here because we understand that it's important for us to be who we are because of each of our intentions, we hold that standard. I call that holding space. We're holding that space for a high expectation in regard to humanity. And, I agree. It is pressure. And I'm so grateful that there's a woman there to handle that pressure because hopefully she's going to maintain that for us all. And that's going to be another person in our history that is paving the way to
Yeah.
show the difference. What a beautiful thing is that. So I'd like to finish today by asking one more question. If you could, I shouldn't say if you could, as a woman of today, created just the way you are, I first and foremost just want to say, thank you. Thank you so much for standing in this life with me. What do you want to leave behind as your legacy? Because each and every one of you will leave a ripple in our history books, in our time for our families and our children, in our space as educators, as mothers. What do you want? What is your message? What do you want to leave behind? What is your thumbprint? If you look at it like we all leave little thumbprints on the lives of the people we touch. What would your imprint be?
Mine would honestly be that generational curses can be broken and you don't have to be a product of your circumstances. I feel like I was expected to be, I just feel like because I came from a small town with not a ton of job opportunities, I feel like if I would have just become someone who worked at the factory and settled down and became a mom and just was okay staying there, it would have been totally accepted, but I never would have reached my full potential. And so I feel like breaking out of that box and just kind of breaking your own glass ceiling, that I just want to show my daughter that you can do more. You can just be so much more and do so much more, and that the dreams you have in your head can totally apply to you if you're willing to work for it.
Fantastic. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful, beautiful message. I was trying to write that down as fast as I could. If you can, Jade, write that down in our comments below. That would
Sure.
be awesome so that we can all remember that. Thank you so much. And who is this little angel that's like a cute little monkey hanging on your shoulder?
This is Trinity Storm, of course, because of my
Wow.
sister.
Aw.
Yep.
You're so beautiful. Hi, thank you for joining us. Trinity, what would you want everybody to know about you if you could leave a little fairy dust in this world that inspires people? What would you like your friends and family to know or to remember of you?
That's a big life question.
That's a big question. All right, well, maybe we'll come back to you and see if something comes back. Gia, how about you? What would you like to share and leave?
Really corny, but just like treat others the way you want to be treated. Like, just like that's always how I felt, is that like if you don't want to be treated like poorly, like, oh, you don't want someone calling you names, or you don't want somebody like discluding you because like, oh, maybe you're loud or you're quiet or you're a different race or you have a different sexuality. I think it's like really important to just treat others like how you want to be treated. Like if you want to be treated with respect and kindness, then treat others with respect and kindness and include them, and then hopefully it'll be put back and put forward to you.
And that's, there's nothing really cheesy about that. If anything, that's how we feed the healing cycle. And as we mend our nation and we mend some of this generational abuse that has been carried on between races, we come into this moment with great understanding that we are all one to some extent, and that even, when we acknowledge our differences by something such as color, we can all respect and cherish and love with the same kindness no matter what. And that's how we continue to enforce change, to continue to enforce an evolution that creates unity rather than division. So that's a beautiful thing. Go ahead and write that in your in the comments below. Just make sure you leave your name. All right, who would like to go next?
No.
Go for it. Go for it. You got it.
So I would like to just inspire others to let them know that you can do and be whatever you want to be in life. Because I came from a small town in Mississippi and I moved to California by myself, no family at all. And I came and created my own life and career. So I want my daughter to know that no matter if you're president, vice president, you can just be and do whatever your dream and heart desires. And know that there is no mountain too high, and know that no matter if it's been done before or not, you're your only person and you're going to leave your own print. So.
Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Please write that down in the comments below. Storm, Aisha, which one of you ladies would like to share next?
Oh, I can go.
go.
Either way.
I don't even know. Like, it's hard for me to put that into words. I really like what Jade had to say with the whole just breaking generational things, being the first. I mean, I am the first in my family to get a bachelor's degree, and I'm about to get my master's in a few weeks or a few months. So like,
Everybody stop. Woo, woo, hold on. We're not done. We got a praise that we love there around here. We need to take that. I mean it. Like, we can't just make the like, oh, and by the way, no. And by the way, yeah, celebrate. Go for it.
But I think it's hard for me sometimes to look at that because the type of, I did get out there and work hard, but at the same time, I still got an extremely large hand out for it because I joined the military, did my time, got my GI Bill. And so that was sadly one of the only ways to break out of growing up impoverished, because I lived in Section 8 housing. I lived in the parts of town where, the poor people live. Like, that's what I grew up with. And I needed the military to give me the steady job, the healthcare, the educational resources to get me out, which is an issue in itself because we know that the military preys on impoverished children in their schools and stuff like that. So there's a lot of issues in that. So it's hard for me to take that and go, I did all this because I didn't really do it all on my own. I definitely did it with the help of the military and the skills that I learned through that. But I still did what I had to do to break that cycle of poverty. And, and that's kind of why it goes into a lot of my platforms of it is where I'm breaking period poverty. I'm out to break the cycle of poverty. It's, why I'm so passionate about it, because I've experienced firsthand broken out, and now I want to help others break out.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what we call being a game changer and a difference maker. And not only are you sharing that from a place of being both, so you're breaking through those realms as a white person and as a Black person, and that's a pretty big deal. Thank you.
And as a mixed person.
Yeah. And as a mixed person, right? I mean, there is like, as a woman, I mean, on many levels, you're taking opportunity to create change and make difference. And that's why our world is evolving in these spaces, is because people like all of you are using your lenses to share and to breathe from and to learn from and to parent from and to practice from in your jobs, in your day-to-days. And you understand because you're in touch with your feelings, how important it is to break those barriers and to be better, so thank you. Storm, bring us on.
I think mine would be, one of my big ones would be to break generational curses as well in our family, but also just to be known as somebody who loves God, loves people, all people. And just for my boys to know, even if you don't have a big platform or stage or anything, that doesn't mean that you can't be a world changer, and you can impact people who impact people, and you never know how far down the line, like, what you did really made a difference. So yeah, just be simply you, doing what you feel like you're called to do, and that you don't have to look to social media or other people and just think, oh, they're doing that, I should be doing that. But like, you are you, and maybe your design is different to do not just a typical thing or just like somebody else, but like, you find your thing and be content with what you were made to do.
Like, you don't need validation from others.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I have this question. What color is God?
Beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is God prejudice?
No.
No.
So when we meet in that space, just like we have today, all that happens is love and
Right.
impact for positivity. And each of you remind me of that in this moment. So if we could just take a moment to bring that energy into our hearts and I'm going to just close my eyes and just revel in this beauty that's with me now, because I know that that's God. And I know that when I'm in a space with God amongst each of you, a God that is speaking through each of your words and shining through each of your lights, that we are one, and we realize that it is our job as humans to create a humanity that is in love, that is in connection, and that is educated with great awareness from our feelings that we respect and that we appreciate and that we learn from. And as we take an opportunity to perception check and to see through each other's lenses, we feel each other's hearts for our melodies that we find in the rhythms of ebbs and flows from our life experiences, but more so in this moment because of what we desire the most, which is to prevail, which is to uplift, and which is to love, and to love in a way that makes a difference in all of our lives for the better. Let's take a deep breath in. We ask that each and every one of our words, our hearts, our hands are touched with the light of God, and that we continue to bless and to heal our world with this energy, using our magical ingredients that we were given to make a difference. As we breathe into this moment and we open our eyes, I thank each and every one of you for being with me today and developing this opportunity for us to speak easy with love about things that might be making our world feel a little uncomfortable. But the more and more we show our world how to speak easy and to speak with love, the more and more we break barriers and allow these conversations to become comfortable and decent and respected and enveloped with the respect and the light that all walks, all races, all humans, all beings deserve with great dignity. So thank you so very much for speaking easy with me today. Is there anything anyone would like to share today before we go?
I just loved getting to know you guys and hearing your stories. I really, like, as I'm getting older, I just really enjoy sitting and being an empath and listening to other people's stories and where they came from.
Me
And
too.
I did want to say one thing to Aisha. When you had talked about that you didn't do it on your own and you had the help of the military and everything that you went through, I just kept thinking, but you made that choice.
Yes.
But you made that choice to do that. And that's like the biggest battle. And you committed to it and you went through that. So, like, man, kudos to you. That's awesome. Thank you for your service.
I just hear another woman empowering another woman. Can I come up, everybody? Because that's what we do, right? That's what we do in this tribe. We love each other because we know what it takes to be a woman. And even with all of our differences, we know that when we come together in this space, man, we got each other, right? We got each other. I will always have each of you, always. And if you ever need anything, I'm here, and I feel like I could count on that from you. And that's what happens when we come together in this space. We just kind of tighten up our tribe and turn up the volumes so that when we speak, people can hear that love. And the more that we embody that example, it's contagious.
That should be our motto: turn up the volume.
Yeah, turn up the volume. That seriously, turn up the volume, turn up the volume and be that. Because we're showing other women how to support other women. We're showing our races to come together no matter what, to love who you are, and where you've come from and what your history is, and to allow that to continue to motivate and give us momentum to be proud of who we are today. Thank you so much. So much. Everybody put it in. What? Come on. Hands in. It's like
Spirit
the
finger.
huddle. Hands in. Is everybody's hands in? Hands in. I don't know. Maybe we should just twinkle our fingers. Yes. up, right? I like that one. Bring it in. Bring it in. Thank you so very much, everyone. I love you, girls, and I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day. May you all speak easy with love every day of your life.
Thank you.
Peace out, girls. Cause what? Who rules the world? Girls. We run this. What? I can't say that. That's a bad word. Beyonce. She almost had me. We won this. Wait. I shouldn't sing either. But you know where I'm at with that. All right, everyone. Have an awesome day. Bye.
Thank you.